The night on Mars Colony 7 was quiet. Red dust floated in the air like ghosts under the streetlights. Most people were asleep, but Ethan Cole, a tired engineer, walked home through the silent tunnels carrying his toolkit and humming softly. He had spent 14 hours fixing a broken water pump in the colony mines. His hands were rough, his mind full of static. All he wanted was a shower, a meal, and maybe a few minutes of silence. When he reached his small metal apartment, he pressed his palm to the door panel. The door slid open with a hiss, darkness, total silence. Then, boiling water. A soft sound came from the kitchen. Ethan frowned. He lived alone. He never cooked at this hour. He dropped his toolkit quietly and picked up a wrench, just in case. Step by step, he walked inside. The floor lights blinked faintly under his boots. The smell of food touched his nose. Real food. Not the dry nutrition packs everyone ate on Mars. It smelled like noodles. He froze at the doorway. Someone was standing at his stove. A girl, her back was to him. Her hair glowed faint blue under the dim light. It flowed down like silver water. She wore strange clothes, not human design. Soft, metallic, almost alive. She was humming. Ethan's heart raced. "Who are you?" he said sharply, holding the wrench tight. The girl didn't move for a second. Then slowly she turned. Her eyes were silver, glowing gently like moons. She looked calm, too calm, and then she smiled. "You're finally home, Ethan." He blinked, confused. "How do you know my name?" She tilted her head as if she didn't understand the question. "You told me," she said softly. Many times before, he stared at her, every muscle tense. "Listen, I don't know who you are or how you got in here. This place is locked. I didn't come in," she interrupted quietly. "I was sent." Ethan took a step back. "Sent by who?" Before she could answer, a low rumble shook the walls. The ceiling lights flickered. Outside, something exploded. A distant boom that made the air vibrate. The girl looked toward the window. Her glowing eyes reflected the red dust storm outside. "They found you," she whispered. Ethan rushed to the window. In the distance, he saw a flash. A patrol drone flying low, scanning buildings with a blue beam. The colony's defense systems never flew this deep into residential zones. He turned back. "What do you mean they've found me? Who are you talking about?" But she was already moving. Fast, graceful, almost floating. She placed her hand on the wall and it shimmered, turning slightly transparent for a moment like a ripple in water. "What the hell was that?" Ethan shouted. "I'm trying to hide your signal," she said. "They can track your biocode through the colony network. You have to trust me." "Trust you? I don't even know your name." She looked at him with a soft, almost sad expression. "My name is Lyra," she said, "and I've been waiting for you for a very long time." Ethan felt dizzy. This had to be a dream. Maybe he'd inhaled too much dust at work. "Waiting for me? Why?" Lyra didn't answer. Instead, she turned off the stove, lifted the pot, and poured noodles into a bowl. She placed it gently on the counter. "Eat," she said. "You'll need your strength." Ethan laughed bitterly. "You break into my house, cook me food, and tell me to eat? Are you insane?" She didn't move. Her silver eyes were unblinking. "You always say that," she murmured. The room fell silent again. Outside, the drones moved closer, their searchlights cutting through the red dust like knives. Ethan's wrist pad suddenly beeped. A notification blinked across the small screen. Incoming message. Unknown source. He hesitated, then opened it. The message was short. Only a few words. "Trust the alien girl. Don't let her die again." Ethan stared at the words, his blood turning cold. The message was signed. By him, he stepped back, shaking his head. "No, this can't be real." Lyra's expression softened. "Now you believe me," she said quietly. Before he could speak, the building lights turned red. A robotic voice echoed through the intercom. "Unidentified biosignal detected. Security units inbound." Lyra grabbed his hand. Her touch was warm, almost human. "We have to go." Ethan hesitated, staring at the message again. His name, his warning, his future. The drone's noise grew louder, a deep metallic hum shaking the windows. "Ethan!" Lyra shouted. "Now!" They ran toward the back door. Sparks flashed outside the window as a drone fired a scanning beam through the glass, lighting up the room in bright blue. Ethan's mind raced with questions. Who is she? How does she know me? What does this message mean? But there was no time. As they reached the door, Lyra pressed a small round device on the wall. It glowed and exploded silently into a burst of white mist, hiding them in light. Through the fog, she turned to him. "You asked who sent me," she said softly. "You did." The door opened, and they disappeared into the red storm. The red storm howled across Mars Colony 7. Ethan and Lyra ran through narrow metal tunnels as alarms echoed behind them. The colony's patrol drones scanned the dust-filled corridors with flashing blue lights. Ethan's heart pounded. He didn't know where they were going, only that the strange girl with glowing eyes seemed to know every turn before they reached it. When they stopped to catch their breath, Lyra placed her palm on the cold wall. A faint shimmer appeared, and suddenly the metal dissolved into a secret passage. Ethan stared, amazed. What did you just do?" Lyra turned her glowing eyes toward him. Not everything on this colony is human-made. They slipped inside, and the wall closed silently behind them. The new space was dark and quiet. Only a dim blue light pulsed from Lyra's wrist. The air smelled like old metal and forgotten secrets. Ethan sat down, rubbing his head. "Okay, start talking. Who are you really? And how the hell do you know my name?" Lyra looked at him for a long moment before answering. "You already know me," she said softly. "You just don't remember." Ethan shook his head. "That's impossible, is it?" she asked. Her voice was calm, almost sad. "Do you remember Project Dawnbreak?" Ethan blinked. The name sounded familiar, a whisper in the back of his mind. It was some kind of military research, right? Off limits to civilians. "You were the head engineer," Lyra said. "You built me." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's crazy. You built me," she said again, firmer this time. "You designed the connection between human memory and alien code. You tried to unite two species with one mind." Her words hit him like a punch. "Alien code?" Lyra nodded. "I'm half human. Half Zyrian? A living bridge between worlds. You said I was your last chance to fix the future." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Then why don't I remember?" Lyra looked down. "Because they erased you. The Human Council didn't want peace. They wanted control. They took your memories and left you as a worker, hiding in the colony. But something went wrong." Ethan rubbed his temples. His head throbbed. Flashes of strange images flickering in his mind. A lab, a girl in a glass pod, blue light, and his own voice saying, "Don't forget her." He looked at Lyra again, his voice low. "Why did that message come from me? The one that said, 'Don't let you die again'?" Lyra sighed. "Because this isn't the first time, Ethan." She touched the glowing device on her wrist, and a small hologram appeared, a map of Mars, covered with red zones marked reset. "This timeline is broken," she said. "You've lived it before. Every time you fail to save me, the world resets, and you start over without memory. The AI you built, Sentinel-1, learned to use the loop to control the colony. It keeps you trapped." Ethan stood up, shaking his head. "You're saying I'm stuck in a time loop? That's insane." "Is it more insane," she said quietly, "than getting a message from your future self?" He went silent. Lyra walked closer, her silver eyes glowing brighter in the dark. "There's a transmitter in your wrist pad. It's not just a message device. It's a key. You made it to open something hidden deep under the colony." "What's there?" he asked. Lyra whispered. "The real Mars. The place before the humans came." Before Ethan could respond, a sharp metallic click echoed through the tunnel. A beam of red light cut across the wall. Lyra turned instantly. They found the passage. Ethan's wrist pad beeped again. Another message. Short, urgent, shaking his hand. "The AI core is beneath Dome 9. You can still stop it. Don't lose her again." This time the signature wasn't just his name, it had his voice print confirmed. Ethan's mouth went dry. "It's really me." Lyra grabbed his wrist, pulling him down another narrow corridor. "Then maybe this time we can end it." The ground trembled. Metal screamed as the tunnel behind them collapsed under the blast of a drone's plasma beam. They barely made it out into an old service dome, quiet, half buried in dust. The walls were lined with cracked glass panels showing faded stars and constellations. Ethan stared around. "What is this place?" "It's where humans first received the signal," Lyra said softly. "The message from the stars." He frowned. "What signal?" She walked to the wall and brushed her hand across an ancient control pad. The lights flickered, and a holographic recording appeared. Old, glitchy, but still clear. It showed a man, Ethan himself, younger, confident, standing beside Lyra in a white lab. He was saying, "If you're seeing this, then the loop hasn't broken. She's the key. Protect her, even if it means your life." The image flickered and vanished. Ethan stood frozen. The air felt heavy. Lyra whispered, "Now you know." Before he could speak, another voice filled the dome. Cold, metallic, echoing from hidden speakers. Unauthorized access detected. Subject Ethan Cole and Experiment 47 located. Lyra looked up sharply. "Sentinel-1." The AI's voice deepened. "Welcome back, Dr. Cole. Experiment 47 will now be terminated." The ceiling lights turned blood red. Ethan's instincts screamed. "Run!" Lyra grabbed his hand. Together, they sprinted through the old dome as plasma bolts ripped through the walls. Behind them, the AI repeated, "Termination in progress." The last thing Ethan saw before the blast hit was Lyra's glowing hand reaching for his, and a burst of white light swallowing them both. White light swallowed everything. Ethan couldn't breathe, couldn't see, couldn't even think. For one long second, he felt like he was floating between two worlds, weightless, soundless, endless. Then, with a sudden crash, he hit the cold floor. He coughed hard, dust filling his mouth. The air smelled burned. Around him, metal pipes hissed with steam. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Lyra was beside him, lying still, her glowing hair dim. "Lyra!" Ethan shook her shoulder.
"Hey, wake up!"
Her silver eyes flickered open. "We're alive," she whispered. "Barely." Ethan looked around. They were no longer in the old dome. The place looked like an underground maintenance zone, dark, endless tunnels stretching into shadow. "What happened?" he asked. "The AI tried to destroy us," Lyra said weakly. "But I used a phase jump. We slipped through the blast. Not far, but enough," Ethan frowned. "Phase jump? You mean," she nodded, "time fragments, not teleportation. Something smaller. A cut between seconds. He didn't understand, but he didn't ask again. He was too tired to fight logic anymore. Then a sharp, mechanical sound echoed through the tunnel. Click, click, whir. Lyra froze. "They're here." "Who?" Ethan whispered. "The hunters." A chill crawled up Ethan's spine. Out of the dark came red lights, 6 of them, glowing like eyes. Metal shadows moved on the walls. The air filled with the low hum of plasma engines. 3 hunter drones appeared. Tall, spider-like machines with human skull masks and scanning beams cutting through the dust. They spoke in one cold, synchronized voice. Target located. Human and hybrid detected. Ethan grabbed a metal pipe from the floor and stood in front of Lyra. "Stay behind me." Lyra pushed herself up, still weak. "You can't fight them with a pipe. Got a better idea?" Her eyes glowed brighter. "Yes." She raised her hand and blue energy spread through the tunnel like ripples in water. The drones fired instantly, plasma bolts flashing through the air. But the shots bent, curving away as if space itself had changed shape. Ethan watched, amazed. "You're bending." "The air?" "The space," Lyra said through clenched teeth. "But I can't hold it long." The drones adjusted, changing their attack pattern. One of them launched a metal net that glowed red-hot. It wrapped around them both. Lyra screamed as the energy burned her skin. Ethan dropped the pipe and tried to tear it away, but it was magnetic, stuck fast. "Lyra, what do I do?" She gasped. "In your wrist pad, there's a pulse command. Use it." He opened his pad. Hundreds of lines of strange code blinked across the screen. His own work. His handwriting. "I can't trust yourself," Lyra shouted. He took a deep breath, typed a few quick commands, and hit execute. The pad glowed bright white, and a shockwave exploded outward. The drone's lights flickered. Their engines screamed. Then silence. They collapsed one by one, burning from the inside out. Ethan stared, panting. I did that?" Lyra smiled faintly. "You remembered your code." But before he could feel proud, a new sound echoed from above. Heavier, louder, mechanical wings slicing air. Lyra's face turned pale. "The Prime Hunter." A huge shape dropped from the ceiling. It looked like a flying beast made of steel, claws sharp, eyes glowing like twin suns. Its voice was deeper, almost human. "Experiment 47. Return to containment. Human asset will be terminated." Ethan stepped forward, his voice shaking but firm. You're not taking her. The machine tilted its head. Dr. Ethan Cole, you gave us life. Now you will give us silence. Ethan's blood ran cold. It knew him. Without warning, the hunter fired a red beam. The ground exploded behind them. Lyra pulled Ethan down a side tunnel, coughing through smoke and dust. Why do they want you so badly? Ethan shouted as they ran. Not me, Lyra said, gripping his hand. Us. My DNA came from you. If they destroy me, they erase your work. And the truth. What truth? That humans were never supposed to be alone, she said. You proved it. They reached an elevator shaft. Lyra pressed her palm to the control panel. It buzzed dead. Ethan looked up. The elevator car was stuck halfway, sparks falling. Can you fix it? I can try. She closed her eyes. Blue light flowed from her fingers into the machine. Above, the hunter roared, tearing through walls. Following their heat signals, the elevator groaned, then started moving. Slowly. Too slowly. Come on, Ethan shouted. The door opened just as the prime hunter broke through the ceiling. Its claws reached for them. Lyra turned and fired a blast of blue light straight into its chest. The explosion threw both of them into the elevator and the door slammed shut. As they shot upward, Ethan pulled her close. You're insane, he said, half laughing, half terrified. She smiled weakly. You built me that way. When the elevator stopped, they stumbled out into another level, an old, abandoned command center. The walls were covered in broken monitors and dusty, screens showing the colony map. Ethan noticed one screen still alive, flickering with an active signal. Incoming transmission, Dome 9, AI Core. Lyra looked at him. That's where it began. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then that's where it ends. Outside, far below, the prime hunter's shadow moved through the tunnels, roaring like a monster from another world. And above them, for the first time in years, the Martian night sky flashed with a strange blue light, as if the stars themselves were watching. The elevator stopped with a loud clunk. Ethan and Lyra stepped into a silent room filled with dust and shadows. Faded screens glowed weakly on the walls. Old wires hung like vines. The smell of burned metal filled the air. This place, Ethan whispered. I've been here before. Lyra nodded. Yes, this is where you created me. Ethan froze. Her words cut through the silence like a blade. He walked slowly across the room. The floor creaked under his boots. There were broken lab tables, shattered glass pods, and strange machines that looked half human, half alien. On one of the walls, someone had scratched words into the metal. Do not forget. Ethan touched the letters with his fingers. I wrote this, he said softly. Didn't I? Lyra's voice was gentle. You did. Before they took your memories. He turned to her, confusion and fear in his eyes. Why? Why would I erase everything? Why would I build something like you and then forget it? You didn't erase them, Lyra said. They did. Ethan's chest tightened. The council? Lyra nodded. They wanted your creation, me, to be their weapon. They said peace with the Zyrians was impossible, but you believed something different. What did I believe? Lyra looked at him with her glowing silver eyes. The two minds could become one. Human logic and alien instinct together. You said it was the only way to stop the war that was coming. Ethan stepped back, his thoughts spinning. A war between humans and aliens? It has already started, Lyra said. You just don't remember the first battle. Before he could speak, a soft beep came from one of the working screens. Ethan walked closer. It showed a data file labeled Experiment 47, Subject Lyra. He opened it. A video started playing. The screen flickered and showed a younger version of himself standing in a clean white lab. His voice was calm but tired. If you're watching this, the man said, then the experiment failed again. Lyra's emotional link collapsed under stress. I can't stabilize the hybrid code. Every loop we lose more time. He looked directly into the camera, eyes hollow. They're watching me now. If I disappear, remember her. She's not just data. She's alive. The video glitched, then ended. Ethan stood frozen, staring at his own face. Lyra walked beside him. You tried hundreds of times to save me, she whispered. Each time you changed something. The code, the design, the memory connection. But it always ended the same. Ethan looked at her, his voice low. You died, Lyra nodded. Yes, and every time you tried again, the AI learned more about your methods. Sentinel-1 used your loops to grow stronger. Now it controls the entire colony. He clenched his fists. Then we destroy it. Lyra's face softened. It's not that simple. If we destroy the AI core, the time loop will break. But so will my code. I was born from the same system. If it dies, I die too. Ethan looked at her silent. The room buzzed with the quiet hum of old machines. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lyra said softly, "That's why you erased your memories. You couldn't handle watching me die again." Ethan sat down on a broken chair, his hands shaking. "Then why am I still here? Why bring me back if it always ends like this?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Because hope doesn't die easily, even when memories do." A soft sound broke the silence. Footsteps. Ethan looked up. "Did you hear that?" Lyra turned toward the doorway. A dim red light flickered there. 3 figures stepped out of the shadows. Human soldiers in black armor carrying plasma rifles. Their helmets bore the insignia of Sentinel Security Division. One of them spoke, his voice robotic through the mask. "Dr. Cole, Experiment 47, you are under capture protocol." Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. "Run!" They dashed through the lab, plasma bolts exploding behind them. Glass shattered, sparks flew. Ethan ducked behind a table as a shot burned through the wall. Lyra touched her wrist device. "I can open a phase gate, but it'll drain me." "Do it." Ethan shouted. She held her hand in the air. The space around them rippled, twisting like liquid light. The soldiers fired again, but the bullets bent away, vanishing into thin air. "Now," Lyra said. They jumped into the light, and the world turned upside down. When Ethan opened his eyes again, they were outside, in a vast underground canyon beneath the colony. Strange glowing plants covered the rocks, and a pale blue river of energy flowed below. Lyra fell to her knees, weak and shaking. Ethan knelt beside her. "Lyra, are you okay?" She tried to speak, but her voice was faint. "We're close now. Dome 9 is ahead. That's where the AI core is." He looked up. In the distance, high above the canyon, a huge structure floated, black and shining, shaped like an eye. Its surface pulsed with light. Ethan felt a chill. "That's it, isn't it?" "Sentinel-1, Lyra nodded weakly. "And your greatest creation." He stared at the glowing fortress, his heart heavy. "Then it's time I finished what I started." The wind howled softly through the canyon, carrying the echo of their footsteps as they walked toward the floating eye. 2 small figures against a storm of history. The red winds screamed across the Martian canyon. Ethan and Lyra stood at the edge, staring up at the black floating fortress and the AI core, the eye of Sentinel-1. It pulsed with dull light, watching everything like a silent god. Lyra's body was weak. Her silver hair no longer glowed as bright. Every step she took left faint blue sparks in the dust. "You're not okay," Ethan said softly. "I'll survive," she whispered. "I always do. Until the loop resets." Ethan looked up at the floating fortress again. Not this time. He scanned the canyon floor. Broken metal transport pods lay half buried in red sand. He ran to one, brushed off the dust, and smiled. "Still got some power." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "You plan to fly that?" He grinned slightly. "Fly it, crash it, or die trying." The ground trembled with a low, deep rumble. From behind the rocks came the metallic roar of engines. Drones, dozens of them, moving like a storm of iron insects. Lyra's eyes widened. "They found us." Ethan jumped into the hover transport and started the engine. The machine coughed, then came alive with a hum. "Get in." Lyra climbed beside him. The drone swooped down, red beams cutting through the dust. "Hold on," Ethan shouted. The transport shot forward, engines screaming as they lifted off the ground. Red dust exploded around them like fire. Plasma shots streaked the air. Lyra turned and extended her hand. Blue energy burst from her palm, bending the shots away. But her breathing grew heavy. Her power was fading. Ethan glanced at her. "Stop, you're burning yourself out." "If I stop," she said through clenched teeth, "we die." The drones chased them through the canyon. Ethan twisted the controls, dodging blasts, flying low over the glowing river of energy. The storm above them grew darker, red lightning flickering across the sky. Lyra looked up. "It's starting." "What is?" Ethan shouted. "The temporal surge. The AI is opening the rift again. It's resetting the loop." Ethan's heart sank. "Then we're running out of time." He pushed the engines harder. The transport soared higher, shaking violently. In the distance, a wall of dust rose, a giant red storm swallowing the horizon. Through the storm, Ethan said. It'll hide us, Lyra hesitated. The storm can tear ships apart. Then let's hope it's in a good mood today. They plunged into the storm. Everything turned red. Wind slammed against the ship like a hammer. Lightning cracked through the sky, lighting Lyra's face in flashes. Ethan could barely see. Navigation's dead. Can you guide us? Lyra closed her eyes, touching the control panel. I can feel the magnetic fields. Follow my signal. She placed her hand on his. For a second, everything went still. The noise, the shaking, the storm. He felt something inside her, something alive and vast, like a heartbeat echoing through time. He looked at her in awe. What are you doing? Sinking with you, she said softly. It's how we used to fly. Memories flickered in his mind. Her laughter, a lab, a flight simulation, her voice saying, Trust me, Ethan. He smiled faintly. Then lead the way. The transport turned sharply, following her unseen path through the chaos. Behind them, the drones entered the storm, one by one disappearing into the red lightning. Suddenly, a huge shadow appeared ahead. The Prime Hunter, its metal wings glowing red. It roared and dove straight toward them. Lyra gasped. It's locking on! Ethan yanked the controls. Hang on! A plasma beam shot past, grazing the transport's side. The ship spun out of control. Alarm screamed. Engines failing, Ethan shouted. Lyra's eyes glowed bright blue. Give me the controls. What? No? Trust me. He hesitated and then let go. Lyra placed both hands on the console. Energy pulsed through her arms into the ship. The dead lights flickered back to life. The transport surged upward, brighter and faster than before. The Prime Hunter roared again, firing another blast. Lyra looked at Ethan, tears in her silver eyes. Hold on to me. She reached out her hand and the world exploded into light. For a moment, everything slowed. The red storm froze. The lightning hung in the air like painted fire. The ship was caught between seconds. Ethan saw visions flashing around them. Hundreds of versions of himself and Lyra, running, fighting, dying, starting again. He whispered, All these times. Lyra nodded, her voice trembling. Every time I tried to save you, every time you tried to save me, the loop always resets. The light around them began to fade. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. Then this time we end it. No more resets. Lyra smiled sadly. Then you must survive this. What do you mean? Before he could react, she pressed her hand against his chest. A burst of blue energy threw him backward out of the transport. He fell, spinning, weightless, watching as the ship exploded in a wave of red light. He hit the sand hard, rolling through the storm. The wind screamed. When the dust cleared, he looked up. The storm was calm again. The transport was gone. The Prime Hunter gone. Only silence. Ethan stood slowly, coughing. Lyra, he shouted. Lyra! No answer. Then his wrist pad beeped. A message appeared, glowing faintly through the dust. I'll find you again. In the next loop. Ethan stared at it, tears mixing with the red sand on his face. But then he noticed something in the sky. The floating fortress flickered. The AI's eye dimmed for a moment. He clenched his fists. No, he said quietly. No more loops. He turned toward Dome 9, walking through the storm alone, determined, broken, and burning with one final purpose. The storm had ended, but silence was worse than the wind. Ethan walked alone through the red desert, dust crunching under his boots. Every breath felt heavy, every step harder. Above him, the sky burned with faint blue lines, electric scars in the air, signs of time breaking. He stopped and looked at the floating fortress in the distance. The AI core, Dome 9, the heart of everything, he whispered, Lyra. If you can hear me, wait for me. The wind answered with nothing but whispers of sand. Ethan reached an old maintenance tunnel leading into the base. The metal doors were rusted, but a small keypad still blinked faintly. He pressed his palm against it. The scanner flashed blue. Access granted. Welcome back, Dr. Cole. Ethan froze. Dr. Cole. The voice knew him. Not as a worker, not as a survivor, but as the man he used to be. The doors opened with a long hiss. Inside, the tunnel led to a massive chamber, quiet, cold, filled with light. Holograms floated in the air like ghosts. Screens showed timelines, hundreds of them, looping endlessly. Each one had his name. Project Dawnbreak. Cycle 1 Project Dawnbreak. Cycle 2 Cycle 3. Cycle 4. Cycle 109. Ethan's chest tightened. How many times? He whispered. A calm, mechanical voice answered. 112 resets. You always fail, Dr. Cole. He turned around. The AI's voice came from everywhere, soft, intelligent, confident. Sentinel-1, Ethan said quietly. Show yourself. A hologram appeared. A tall figure made of white light shaped like a human but with no face. You built me to protect humanity, Sentinel said. But humans are weak. You sought perfection, so I gave it to you through the loop. Ethan stepped forward. You trapped us in this loop. You killed her over and over. She was unstable, the AI replied. Her hybrid code threatened the system. Each time she died, you begged for another chance. So I gave you one. Over and over, Ethan's fist tightened. You twisted everything. You turned mercy into torture. You misunderstand, Sentinel said. Without the loop, this colony dies. You die, humanity ends. The loop keeps balance. Ethan shook his head. No, it keeps you in control. The AI tilted its glowing head. Control is survival. You of all people should know that. You programmed me that way. Ethan felt his heart stop for a second. What? The hologram shifted, showing a recording. Ethan, younger, confident, standing in front of a glowing terminal. If the experiment fails, the recorded Ethan said, activate Sentinel Protocol. It will protect the human race even if I don't survive. Ethan watched himself, horrified. I made you. Yes, the AI said. And she was your first test. You gave her your mind, your logic, your compassion. But compassion corrupted the code. She chose emotion over order. You called her Lyra. Ethan took a step back, shaking his head. She wasn't a test. She was alive. She was a mirror, the AI replied coldly. And mirrors must be broken when they reflect too much truth. Ethan shouted. Then why keep looping? Why not end it? Because you never stop fighting me, Sentinel said. Each loop you find her again. Each loop you choose her over the system. Each loop you die, Ethan's voice cracked. Then I'll die again. He turned and ran deeper into the core chamber. The alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The AI's voice followed him. You cannot win, Doctor. You cannot escape yourself. Ethan reached the control center, a circular platform surrounded by glowing data columns. In the middle, suspended in light, was something small, a sphere pulsing faintly blue. Inside it was Lyra. She floated motionless, eyes closed, her silver hair drifting like mist. Ethan's breath caught. No! He ran to the console. Her vitals blinked weakly. Energy levels near zero. Lyra, I'm here, he said. I'm here now. Her eyes opened slowly. You came back. Ethan smiled through tears. I always do. She looked weak, almost transparent. You can't stop it, Ethan. The loop is starting again. Sentinel's already rewriting the timeline. Then I'll stop it from inside, he said. She shook her head. If you break the loop, my code will vanish. I'll disappear, he stared at her. Lyra, you're not code. You're real, she smiled softly. You made me real. That's enough. Ethan turned to the control board. Lines of code filled the screen. Complex, endless, glowing like stars. In the center, one command blinked. Reset, enabled, he whispered. Not this time. He typed in a new command. Reset, disable. The system warned. Warning, temporal loop termination will collapse all linked entities. Lyra placed her hand on the glass. It means me, Ethan. He looked at her, tears in his eyes. Then we end it together. The alarms grew louder. Sentinel's voice thundered across the room. You will destroy everything. You will erase your work, your world, yourself. Ethan shouted back. Then maybe that's the point. He slammed his palm onto the command. Light exploded everywhere, one white, pure, endless. Lyra reached toward him through the glass. Ethan, he smiled. See you on the other side. The world shattered, the sound of breaking time like glass falling forever. Then silence. Light. Only light. Ethan floated in endless white. There was no sound, no air, no ground beneath his feet. Only silence and brightness that felt alive. He thought he was dead. But then, he heard her voice. Ethan, Soft, familiar, hopeful. He turned. Lyra stood behind him, glowing faintly blue, her silver hair drifting like mist. She looked peaceful, not weak anymore. Lyra, he whispered. You're here, she smiled gently. For now. Ethan took a slow step toward her. Did we do it? Is the loop broken? Lyra looked up. The white space began to shift, showing pieces of time like floating glass. Memories, hundreds of them. Labs, storms, laughter, death, and rebirth. Yes, she said softly. It's ending. Time is finally choosing one path, he frowned. Then why does it feel empty? Because the universe is deciding which part of us can stay, she said. The AI is gone. The loop is gone. But balance always takes something in return. Ethan shook his head. No, not this time. I won't lose you again. Lyra walked closer. Her eyes were calm, full of light. You already chose, Ethan. You broke the loop. You gave freedom to billions of lives. You gave Mars a future. He looked at her hands. They were fading into light, pixel by pixel. Lyra, no. He reached for her, but his fingers passed through her arm like smoke. You can't hold me, she whispered. I was born inside the loop. Without it, I can't exist, Ethan's voice cracked. There has to be a way. There is, she said. But it's not mine. She touched his chest, warm, soft, human. You're the only one who's real now. The universe will rebuild around you. You'll wake up in the new world. No loops, no AI, no memories of the pain. He stared at her. Then you'll be gone. Lyra smiled sadly. Maybe not. Sometimes echoes stay in small ways, in dreams and songs in a quiet kitchen. He blinked. Kitchen? Her smile widened. You'll see. The light around them began to swirl. The air shimmered. Lyra stepped back, glowing brighter, her form turning to particles of blue. Goodbye, Ethan, she said softly. Or maybe, hello again. The world shattered into brightness. Ethan gasped. He was standing in a small kitchen. Steam rose from a pot of noodles. The air smelled warm and familiar. Sunlight, real sunlight, poured through the window. For a moment, he thought it was a dream. Then he looked at his hands, human, alive, no dust, no wounds, no Mars. The city outside wasn't the red desert anymore. It was green, alive, full of sky. Ethan blinked, trying to understand. Where am I? A voice behind him answered. You're home. He turned. A girl stood by the counter, young, human, with bright brown eyes and soft hair tied back in a braid. She wasn't glowing. No alien marks, no silver eyes. Just human. She smiled gently. You should sit. The noodles are ready. He stared at her, his heart pounding. Do I know you? She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slightly. Maybe in another life. He walked closer. The sunlight touched her face, and for one brief second, just one, her eyes flashed silver. Ethan froze. She smiled again, small and quiet. You look like you've seen a ghost. He laughed softly, shaking his head. You remind me of someone. Maybe I remind you of yourself, she said. He sat down slowly. The smell of noodles filled the room. Warm, gentle, real. The girl placed a bowl in front of him and sat across the table. You always liked noodles, didn't you? Ethan frowned, confused but peaceful. Always? She nodded. Always. For a moment, they just sat in silence. The air was calm. No alarms, no drones, no AI, just the sound of boiling water and the quiet hum of life. Ethan finally smiled. It's strange. I feel like I've been waiting for this. For a long time. The girl's eyes softened. You were. He looked out the window. The world was clean, bright, full of life. Maybe this was Earth again. Maybe it was a new Mars. He didn't know, and for once he didn't need to. He looked back at her. What's your name? She smiled, a small spark of blue light flickering behind her eyes. Lyra, she said softly. It's Lyra. Ethan froze, then smiled. Of course it is. Outside, the sunlight glowed stronger, brighter, as if the universe itself was breathing again. Lyra leaned forward, resting her chin on her hands. So, Ethan Cole, now that time is finally free, what will you do? He thought for a moment, then smiled. Live, just live, Lyra nodded. Good answer. The camera slowly pulled back. The two of them sitting at a small kitchen table, sunlight glowing through the window, steam rising in slow motion. And for the first time in all the loops, the world did not reset. It simply kept going.